Signalé en position de hors-jeu, il a éliminé Bizot. Mbappé. Oh, Kylian Mbappé qui punit. Le stade brestois en compte, il va falloir vérifier la position au départ. Mais pour l'instant, ce but, il est validé.
Hello and welcome to the latest installment of PSG Talking. I'm your host Ed, and on today's show, we're going to be talking about PSG's loss to Lorient, as well as the bombshell news that PSG has suspended Lionel Messi for 2 weeks. First, let's take care of a little business. For everything PSG, make sure you visit psgtalk.com. We're also publishing premium content for free over on Substack, so make sure you go and subscribe to PSG Talk there. And thank you as always for subscribing and listening to this fine podcast. All right, so to help me break down all of the drama going on at PSG, I'm joined by my good friend Ethan from PSG Fan Club Boise. Ethan, other than PSG, how are things on your end?
Hey, going good. My Lakers are in the second round of the playoffs. Game actually just started. My MLS club's playing the second leg of the CONCACAF Champions League, semifinal right now as well. So I've got another tab open. I'm checking those out every once in a while. But other than that, yeah, it's solid. How are you doing?
Yeah, everything is good on my end. NBA team's not in the playoffs. RSL still going to those games. We're actually going to go see RSL play LAFC and watch you guys destroy us by probably 3 goals. But it'll be a good time anyway.
Yeah.
But what's going on in the French capital is certainly not a good time. Let's dive right into the breaking news of the day. So Messi, he's been suspended by PSG for the next 2 weeks. He cannot train or play in any matches. He won't be paid. And all of this is going on with the backdrop of his contract extension negotiations with PSG. Ethan, what were your initial reactions when you saw the news?
Yeah, my initial thoughts is, well, the very first report I saw, I didn't believe it. I just thought it was, the first thing I saw was from L'Equipe. So I thought, it's just L'Equipe. They're just, talking whatever again. And then it really blew up, and it's pretty apparent that that's true now. So, man, it's a weird, complicated situation. We'll try and cover it best we can, but I'm a little shocked based on the things I've seen. This seems, Messi's always been very professional, and this seems like a big slip up for him. So kind of weird. And then also just in the heat of the whole season having gone poorly, and, a lot of PSG fans, especially French fans, worried about his, effort when he's not on offense, just his work rate. I don't know. Just things are kind of coming to a boil here, it feels like, especially on Twitter. I know you and I were both pretty active on Twitter today, and it was a bit tense on there. So there were people getting pretty riled up on both sides. But yeah, it was weird for sure.
Yeah, it's not every day that Messi's getting suspended. Can't remember if that ever happened at Barcelona. I seriously doubt it. But I guess we should talk about why he was suspended. So apparently Messi is an ambassador for Saudi Arabia tourism. I'm not sure if that's like the official whatever, but he essentially went to Saudi Arabia to take some photos with his family on vacation, and then Saudi Arabia tourism was going to use that to promote on his Instagram feed to his millions and millions of followers and kind of promote Saudi Arabia. And Ethan, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if he got this cleared. From my understanding, he asked if he could go, and it's sort of muddied from there. Did PSG initially say no, or did they let him go and then change their mind? We know that there's some, political stuff going on between Qatar, who owns PSG, and Saudi Arabia. So you've got that going on. So, but in a nutshell, Messi went there against PSG's will, whether it was initially or after the fact, and they decided to take action against him, and that's when he got the 2 weeks of suspension. So that's sort of what was going on. You and I, like you said, we're definitely active on Twitter when that news broke. My initial reaction was good. I'm just going to assume that PSG told him no, he can't go, and he went anyway. And I think whether it's Mbappe, Neymar, Messi, Hakimi, Mendes, whoever, if the club tells you can't go and do something, they have good reason and they have the authority to tell you can't do something, you have to abide by it. We can't be a club anymore that allows our players, and especially our superstar players, to do whatever they want. This isn't a club where you come in and you cash a big check and you do what you want, you train when you want, you play hard when you want, and you do whatever you want. Like we can't have that anymore. People joke that PSG is a small club, and in a lot of ways they're acting like that over the past few years, if not the past decade. And I felt like this was finally them putting their foot down and saying enough. So I'm going to assume that they told him he can't go, and he went, and they said, I don't care who you are, you can be Messi, we're suspending you. We would suspend anyone on this team for doing what you did, and they suspended him. Messi probably has made his mind up, and he's going to be leaving anyway, so he probably doesn't care that much, which goes to speak to his professionalism. So overall, my initial reaction was good. I'm glad that the club suspended him. I would say the same thing if it was Mbappe, if he did that. So that was my initial reaction. Any comments on that, Ethan?
Yeah, so from what I understand, and I've seen this from a couple sources. I know ESPN FC is not the most reliable, but them and a couple other sources, this is what I read. And they all had basically the same story. From what they said, apparently Messi asked to go on the trip, and PSG basically answered by saying, Galtier was going to let the team have Monday and Tuesday off if we beat Lorient on, what do we play them? Sunday, Friday? Yeah, Sunday. And if we beat them on Sunday, then they'd have had Monday and Tuesday off, opposed to just Tuesday. We didn't win, obviously, and then he went on the trip anyway. And that's basically what I've heard. I know people are just flying around, conflicting, rumors and stuff online, but that is what I've seen. So, it would appear that he kind of just dipped and went off on his own on this little trip just to, like you said, he's Saudi Arabia's tourism ambassador, and he had some, pretty looking pictures of the wildlife and everything there. So either way, I agree. I think if that is the truth, I think he's got to be suspended. I'm a little surprised at 2 weeks. That does seem a bit harsh for missing one game. I know that a lot of teams have a code of conduct that they either set in place, when the current captain is appointed. So that would have been, a couple of years ago with Marquinhos, or some of them do it year by year. And there's normally, you get fined half a week's wages for doing this, a week's wages for that kind of stuff. But 2 weeks seems, I wouldn't have guessed that it would have been 2 weeks. I would have guessed he would have been fined 1 week's wages if I just had to throw a number on it. But apparently, it's a full suspension for 2 weeks. No training, no pay, no nothing. Other than that, it's tough to say how much this being a Qatar versus Saudi Arabia thing has to play into it. I've heard from a lot of people that the political tensions aren't that bad and that they're on pretty good terms. But I would still say, just like with any two neighboring countries, whether or not they're on good relations, not that this kind of thing ever happens with the U.S. and Canada, for example, as we're both Americans, easy to put it that way. But the U.S., it wouldn't surprise me if the U.S. tried to use a little bit of leverage to, enhance our own image over Canada. So it's not that crazy of an idea. It's not even Cold War tactics. It's like less than that, but it's still something, and Qatar's always going to do it. They, what they can to enhance their own image, as is Saudi Arabia, as is basically any country in the world. So despite people saying that this could be a political thing, or it's not a political thing, I think it's at least a little bit a political thing, whether the club's going to say it or not. But I don't think that is the primary reasoning. We saw in January, we had that game against, the team that was called the Riyadh All-Stars, quote unquote. And, we've done that, but I still, it wouldn't surprise me if there was, just a tinge of political leverage, here, and Messi essentially being used just a little bit as a political tool. So, other than that, I agree. I think a lot of people would say that Mbappe is currently above the club. A lot of neutrals would say that, as we're paying him $72 million a year is what's usually reported. And I still agree. Mbappe has at times been probably above the club. He's been elevated more, above the club. But that doesn't make it right. Just because, we let it slide with other players in the past doesn't mean we should let this one slide too. And my last bit of thing, we might jump into this more, but my last thing is a lot of people are sort of critical of PSG on this right now and saying, why would you can't suspend the GOAT, or, he's, a lot of Twitter trolls, they'll say he's bigger than PSG anyway. And I think that's exactly the thing that's the issue. If he's supposedly bigger than PSG, according to, Messi FC, then we shouldn't be putting him above the club. No one should be above the club. So I think it's a weird, thing that, and this is just kind of Twitter banter, but the philosophy of no player being above the club is what's won most great teams in football championships. But apparently when PSG starts, a move towards doing this, then we're criticized. It's hypocritical, but you'd expect that from a lot of people on Twitter. So I just thought I'd mention that as well. Where this is, I don't want to jump to conclusions or say, oh man, everything's fixed. Nasser, you did it. You fixed everything. The mentality of the club has changed. There's really no way to tell quite yet if that's the case, but this is a step in the right direction. And I hope he keeps up this kind of stuff.
Yeah, certainly a step in the right direction. I do wonder, how long had this been planned? I remember there were some rumblings last week that Messi was going to be going to Saudi Arabia. These kind of photo shoots and these big promotions are months in advance. How long had PSG known about this? Did Messi run it by them? Did he give them ample notice, or did he say like a week or less than a week, hey guys, I'm going to go to Saudi Arabia and hope you're okay with it? Like, you and I work professionally. You can't go to your boss a week before and say you're leaving the country. And I know it's a little different. We're not footballers, but like, just the code of conduct, it's just something that you would do with your employers, give them more than a week's notice. Looking at the schedule for PSG, which they tweeted it out early this morning, Tuesday is a day off, but they've got Wednesday, Thursday, training. They've got media on Friday, and they've got a game on Sunday. I think, like you said, I think there's a little bit of a political stuff with Saudi Arabia and Qatar. But I think if Messi went to Miami or Los Angeles or Australia or Japan, I think if he just left the country to do some like promotional stuff, I think they probably still would have suspended him. I don't think they love their players just leaving. And this isn't the first time that PSG suspended. You can maybe, if you think of any other examples, but I could just think back in the Laurent Blanc era. Cavani had come back from holiday a little bit late there, the midseason, after Christmas and all that. He came back late, and I believe he was suspended. Has Neymar been suspended for going to Brazil? I can vaguely remember. Someone listening will probably tweet me, but so PSG have done this before, and it's just not a good look. I mean, Messi's 35 years old. He's a World Cup winner. He's probably the greatest footballer of all time. What are you doing? I mean, this is just so unprofessional. To be suspended for 2 weeks, whether right or wrong, it's just not a good look. I don't love it, but I do love that PSG are putting their foot down, and enough is enough. So that's sort of our initial reactions. Let's sort of, Ethan, weave this into the loss to Lorient. PSG lost 3-1. Lorient's a mid-table side. They lost to them last weekend at the Parc de France, if I'm not mistaken, and so they've lost 3 of their last 6 matches, and so is what's going on with Messi sort of a window into what's been going on with this team all season, which seems to be a lack of respect for the manager, the sporting project in general. People are just there for the paycheck, and they really don't have anything to prove, and they're just going through the motions. Is that really it, or is this something else?
No, I think it is a window into what's going on. And Random just backtrack. I know that Serge Aurier and Hatem Ben Arfa have been suspended in the past as well. But
Ben
no,
Arfa was
this,
sent to the with the reserves, I think, or the
yeah,
academy.
he was, yeah, yeah. Gosh, I can't remember what year that was. Feels like forever
I
ago.
think it
But
was Unai
um,
Emery did it, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
My memory's really poor, so yeah, I would not have remembered
I even
the
tweeted that. I
year
said,
manager.
send
But
Messi to the train with the kids and then take pictures in social media and do a
uh,
sponsor post or something.
That's that's funny. Yeah, but I think it is a window into kind of what's going on. I know that Mark, who's often been on the podcast and contributes. I know I feel like he had a lot of good tweets today. If you guys, don't follow him, I would check out his Twitter. Mark Damon. He said, I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but this is if we were still in the Champions League, say that a 30-year-old Portuguese guy in Israel hadn't scored, a goal, 6 months ago, then we'd probably be in the Champions League semifinals right now, or we would at least made the quarters and played Inter. But if that had happened, if we were still in the Champions League right now, then this would not have happened. We would not have seen this collapse. People would still be dialed in. And it just goes back to what Laurent Blanc said after I don't think it was right after the UCL elimination, but I think it was a couple games after when we had, continued our bad form. And he said, and for anyone listening that doesn't know or is new to PSG or neutral, Laurent Blanc coached us for, several years, 4 years. And he knows the current kind of culture of the club better than most anyone. And he said, at PSG, when you're out of the Champions League, when your primary goal has disappeared, then it seems like for people the season is over. And I think a lot of times, for some reason, whatever it was, the players respected Pochettino a little more, or they respected Tuchel a little more, because we didn't quite see this sort of lethargic play as much after UCL, disappointing UCL eliminations in the past. But for some reason, it's so hard to say, but it does seem like they don't respect Galtier anymore, and it's so odd because I remember, I can't remember if I was talking on that podcast, but actually I don't think I was. I think it was at the beginning of the season, and I think it was you exactly who said, Galtier should be an interesting hire because he can come in there and say, hey, I've beaten you guys. I've won the Liga title against you guys, despite you guys having 10, 15 times the money. And if that's not going to command respect from some players, then maybe nothing will. So I don't think this is just this isn't just a players not respecting manager thing because manager's bad. I think this is a players not respecting managers because the players' heads aren't in the right place, or they're not in the right place. I also think, I think it may have been PSG Fan Club Helsinki. I know they also tweet out some good content. They always have a really pragmatic view into PSG, and I think they've said stuff similar to that. If you can't respect, this guy who's beaten you to the Liga title, then it's really on the players a lot too. They got to be locked in. We still have a Liga title to win. I know, people outside of France don't really give us a lot of credit for that, and it is something that we should be winning. But that doesn't mean we can drag our boots, or crawl to the finish line. In years past, we've won Liga in just a couple of years ago by 31 points. I get that the level of the average quality of the league back then was not at what it's at today. Liga has improved. We've seen that in, the mid-table has improved in Liga, I think. I don't know about the top six or so. I feel like our European.
If you look at Monaco's in fourth, Lyon are in seventh. I mean, those are sort of your typical Liga powerhouses, and I mean Marseille is up there in second, but Lyon's in third. I mean Lille's in fifth. Clermont's in eighth, Nice is in ninth. So
Clermont in eighth. Yeah,
it's just jumping up. Go ahead.
It is. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was going to say, even look back to the season that Lyon made the Champions League semifinals and knocked out City. They got eighth that year. Yes, the season was cut short, and one leg Champions League fixtures are unpredictable, but still, got to give them a little credit. Not this year. They are I think they are currently not in the relegation zone on goal difference, and they were holding it for 150 minutes against Juventus in the Europa League this year, and they got out of their group. So I do think the mid-table teams in Liga have improved the past couple of years, but it's just still not an excuse for this. I mean, I still think that this current era of the team, given the resources and given the wages of the payroll of available players, I would still take this Galtier team over the Pochettino of last season, just because we were playing about as poorly, but we were spending so much more money. But still, it's I really guess we could say it's like it's shameful. It kind of is. So, do you have anything to touch on from that,
Yeah.
or?
Yeah. So I think with the loss to Lorient, losses happen. I think didn't Real Madrid lose today? Big teams lose the smaller teams all the time. 3 out of 6 after you're out of the Champions League. That's certainly something's going on. Like you said, the main objective is over, so the players aren't playing well. They're kind of checked out. And if you're the manager, like if Pep Guardiola was here, he would be like, Messi, you're not running, you're not tracking back, you're not playing. Like, we need a manager with that sort of stature. Zidane would come in. Neymar, you're not tracking back. You're not doing what I need. You need to sit down. It's not working. We need a manager that can bench these players until they get it in their head that you have to play every game as if it's a Champions League final. It's perfection. You're playing against yourself. That's the only way you're going to get better. It's, again, professionalism. I'll have to work that into the name of this podcast. Messi was not professional with what he did. The team is not playing professional. And quite frankly, I think they should probably take their wages and donate it to a Paris Children's Hospital or something, because they are not earning the amount of money that they're being paid with these performances. I think they should be embarrassed. Like, at some point, you think your pride would come in and be like, hey, fuck this. I'm not losing to Lorient. Let's go. Like, someone, Sergio Ramos, someone, like, gather the boys together and, like, get it going if the manager's not doing it. But they can't. They're just, like, it's just a team of wet blankets. Like, they're just strolling about, losing to Lorient on 3-1. Hakimi gets 2 yellows with silly challenges. I love Hakimi, but, like, what are you doing? What are we doing? Taylor Twelman, what are we doing? It's embarrassing. So I just think it's a complete lack of professionalism. I think what's going on with Messi is certainly a window. The players are not listening to the manager. I think maybe if you bring in a Mourinho, a Zidane, a Pep, someone of that stature who can come in and be like, look, and lay it down and have the credentials and get this team to listen to him. If they don't, you got to go. Messi, there's the door. Neymar, you're not ready? Go. Leave. I think you should leave anyway. But if these players are not going to listen and do what they need to be, that needs to be done, they got to go. That's everyone. Everyone, I think, except for Mbappe and Mendes. Those are the only 2 that I would keep. Hands down.
Yeah.
The rest of them can go.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, and I think Mendes has shown, he's worked hard all year, and I feel like it's a bit tough to be a fullback and consistently have amazing games. Just sometimes the game plan doesn't work around you, and sometimes your defensive work is kind of overlooked. If you play an easy team, smash them 4-0, and it's we're playing. Messi and Mbappe are just getting these little great 1-2s to each other through the middle all game. Then you as a fullback, you're not being utilized a bunch, but he still is world class. And I think I even agree with Mbappe. He shouldn't be bigger than the team, but I think he knows that. I think he's made that clear that he doesn't want to be.
He's also been here since 2017, and he signed a contract extension. He's he's more ingrained than I would say Messi. I would give a little bit more leeway than even Messi.
Yeah, no, and I'm with you. And even for Neymar, he also joined in 2017. I mean, he's been here, and I know that you and I, we spoke on Neymar right after that injury a couple months ago. But my opinion is slowly shifting to where he still is almost tied with Messi and Mbappe for most goal contributions in the league this season, and he's been out forever. I really think it's just tough when he's hurt all the time, but I think he still has it in him. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think he still has it in him to be the glue of this team, to be that, you get a lot of guys, like, I think this summer we need a good 6, a good defensive midfielder. We need someone to be the anchor in defense to midfield. I believe Neymar in a lot of ways is that same kind of anchor from midfield to attack. So yeah, no, I definitely it is a weird look for Messi, especially you take other guys who came that same season. I mean, the other big profile signing that's still here was Hakimi, but I'm talking like old veterans. Sergio Ramos. He was basically the only one doing anything in that second leg against Bayern. He had two headers that whisked past the post. If they were a little better, we could have been maybe even tied despite playing terrible. I still see him hauling ass all over the pitch. I feel like Ramos is showing exemplary professionalism in my opinion for the most part. And yeah, I would agree. We just haven't quite seen that with Messi.
Yeah, I would agree. And Ramos certainly would need to come off of those wages. Um, the whole situation is just it's head scratching, and Messi has had his moments. What was it, the free kick against Lyon? I mean, he's putting up the numbers, but I just don't think he's a great fit for the team. And now with this going on, I just don't like it at all.
Yeah.
And then with Neymar, I hear what you're saying about him kind of being the glue. I'm not saying I go around and call people and actively try to get rid of him, but I would certainly listen to offers. If Chelsea called me and was like, "Hey, we'll give you 80 mil for him or something," I'm seriously considering that. You know what I mean? Like Atletico Madrid, somebody comes in and wants to make a bid for him. I just made that up. There's been no link with him to that club, but you know what I mean? I would listen to offers for Neymar because he like you said, he can be that glue. He does have the talent. He puts up the numbers, but it's like, when does he put those numbers up? He doesn't do it in the knockout stage of the Champions League on a consistent enough basis because he's always injured every year, like literally every year. So that's why I'm picking up the phone if someone's calling me for Neymar.
Yeah, I get that. So just clarifying, you are saying basically the only players that you really wouldn't listen to offers for is Mendes and Mbappe.
Yeah, I wouldn't. As soon as they mention them, click, hang up. Not entertaining.
Yeah.
Verratti, I'm listening. Donnarumma.
Yeah.
People know I wanted Donnarumma over Navas. I'm listening to offers for him now, so there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Because the right back position is difficult to find quality. There's not that many. I probably would put Hakimi up there as well. I know he struggled this season, but I gotta believe he can turn it around in a non-World Cup year. I probably wouldn't listen to offers for him either because I like him and Mukiele, who's had injuries. I like having both of them there to kind of solidify my right back position. But yeah, everyone else I'm listening to offers for.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think Mbappe, it does feel like he's had a down year because he hasn't been, stellar. He's obviously very good. Even his bad games usually aren't terrible. Barring, a couple games here and there, the Bayern second leg, not great, but I looked this up today because I just saw some Twitter posts that someone was shocked that Mbappe had never scored 50 club goals in a season with PSG because Haaland just hit that. And before I preface any of this, I think Haaland should win the Ballon d'Or. Just so if you hear me saying anything after this, it's not Haaland slander, it's Mbappe praise. So
I've got some thoughts on Haaland I can give you real quick, but finish your thought.
Yeah. So they are scoring. I think I did the math right. If I did it wrong, it's real close. So, essentially this is the idea. Mbappe has like 42 club goals for PSG this season in 39 starts. And, he's come off the bench just a couple times. So that's slightly more than a goal a game. Haaland is at 56 goals. And I'm including, I apologize. I think that stat with Mbappe was also including with France. So he had the World Cup that he did very well at, and then Nations League and Euro 2024 qualifiers. But either way, so it's with club and country. And then Haaland is at 56 because he's got 50 goals with City, and he scored 6 for Norway. So, and in 53 games. So that is a very similar goal scoring rate. Not to mention Mbappe's a winger, and Haaland's a pure striker who is on the best team in the world, whether they win the UCL or not. I think we all agree they're probably the best team in the world. And Mbappe is doing this in what people are considering a down year for him. And that's not even mentioning his assists, which he's, if you look at expected assists, he should have probably 8 or 10 more assists than he has. So, just thought I'd mention that. Gives, some Mbappe praise. So I know a lot of those games, and I did remove the game against Pays de Cassel right there. I know a lot of people will think, 5 goals against a sixth. He scored 5, and they're in the 6th division, so they're semi-pro. I removed those goals from that stat, so you can't come back to me saying, 5 of those are against, plumbers and mailmen. I excluded those. But what was your take on Haaland?
Oh yeah, he didn't play in the World Cup. He got a vacation while everyone, Mbappe and Messi were, killing each other in the World Cup final, leaving it all on the line, and he's just kicked back, relaxing. And then he comes in, and I also think a lot of his success is down to Kevin De Bruyne, just serving up balls on a platter. And I think any striker really there, maybe not put up those numbers, but would put up pretty substantial numbers. So good player. I think he's benefited from additional rest that others didn't have. And I think De Bruyne probably deserves a lot of the credit for what's going on there. But he's a good player. I'm not saying he's a bum. Okay, don't come at me. Yeah. I'm just saying let's pump the brakes a little bit. All right, let's keep it moving. So, Ethan, you mentioned some of Messi's incredible numbers, but no Champions League trophy, which is really what he was brought here to do. At least that's what the club would say, not to sell jerseys and rake in marketing dollars. How would you overall rate the Messi experiment at PSG? Because it does seem with this suspension that we've probably seen him kick his last football in a PSG shirt.
Yeah. If Lens and Marseille draw on Saturday and we win our next 2 matches, then we're going to be 8 points clear with 3 matches left. I mean, we're not losing at that point. We could lose the last 3 and we still wouldn't lose the league. So, there's a good chance that game against Lorient was it. But as far as how I'd rate it, let's give it like
D for failure.
Yeah, I was gonna give it like the American grading system. I'd say like C+. Like he was a great playmaker for us. I think he averaged fairly close to a goal or an assist a game. I think he had 0.8 goals or assists per game. That's even after that pretty poor fall start that he had when he got here. But, you're right. He was brought here to win the Champions League. I don't think it's solely on him that we haven't won it. I mean, we haven't had the midfield. Wages had to get cut. Like financial moves had to be made after the last season. So we didn't put him in the greatest position to succeed. We didn't put any of those players in the greatest position to succeed, but he's still you would have expected a little more just from the hype of it all. But I've said a lot of times, I think he is a similar enough profile to Neymar to where it hurts us to have 2 of them. If we have a great playmaker like one of them, we've got Mbappe on the left wing or playing as an inside forward with all that speed. And then if we just get a target man, I mean, you look at our best teams, we had Cavani, good in the air. Zlatan, very good in the air. Guys like that, they kicked ass. So that's sort of the formula for attack. And then we just get an elite, holding midfielder, an elite 6, pair him with Verratti, or maybe get another guy who's not as injury prone. And, we're not winning the UCL every year, but we're contenders every year. And that's the important thing, I think every year we should be in the, barring a weird fluke incident, we should be in the quarterfinals 9 of 10 seasons at this point. So after the quarterfinals, draw, anything could happen. You could have injuries, but the fact that we didn't reach the quarterfinals once out of the 2 years is, that's not acceptable. And, I did just say we didn't put him in the greatest position to succeed, but you would have expected more.
Yeah, I think back when, the news broke, here we go, Messi to PSG. We were all elated. We thought this was it.
Day. Yeah.
I remember when his jersey went for sale, it crashed the PSG store website. You remember that? Expectations were through the roof.
Yeah, I got one of those jerseys. I was quick enough to snag one before it sold out. But yeah, I was freaking out. That was crazy. I remember I was up in this little, this little resort town up here in Idaho. It's called McCall. It's like our big, resort town for everyone that lives in southern Idaho or southwest and central Idaho. And I was just chilling on the beach, and Twitter was kind of stirring up that day, and we'd already heard rumors. And I'm just on the beach playing football. That's soccer. I'm just kicking it around with my brother, and the news breaks, and he's not even a PSG fan. He pretty casually supports Bayern. I got him into them during COVID. We played a lot of FIFA during lockdown. So, but he, even for me, was like, wow, that is crazy. And it was crazy to think, wow, to me, he's the GOAT. So for me, the greatest player of all time is joining my club. We've had Ballon d'Or winners, George Weah. We've had, all these legends. We've had World Cup winners with Rye. We've had all these guys, but just that one's, it felt different. It was, it was electric for sure. And then I saw some tweet today. Someone said, today, with the news that Messi is probably leaving, today is the greatest day in PSG history since the day that we signed him, is what someone said. So that was pretty funny. That was kind of that's a bit harsh, but I get that they were probably joking. But yeah, it was so weird. And then I didn't think, maybe if you had told me that we didn't win the Champions League either of the seasons that he's here on his first contract, I would have been like, all right, did we at least make a semifinal? And yeah, it did fall short in a lot of ways. Not all to him. It did not help that Leonardo was there for his first year. And I've always said, I think this is more of a rebuilding year, fixing finances. I've talked a bunch about that, but this is not how I thought his tenure would go down.
I mean, if someone at that point, when you're buying his jersey, if someone from the future said, hey, Ethan, PSG are not going to get out of the round of 16. And not only that, his time at PSG is going to end with a 2-week suspension because he went to Saudi Arabia to be an Instagram influencer. Like, it would have just blown your mind. You would have been like, no,
yeah, that would have been weird. Yeah, I wouldn't have believed you.
Yeah. So so you gave him a C minus?
Did I say C plus? I'd probably give it
C plus.
Because C plus, because it was still, we did make a good amount of revenue off of it. He wasn't like a bad playmaker. It's just he wasn't the greatest fit, amongst other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
C plus is fair. I think that's probably what I would give him as well. Brought in a lot of money for the club, but it came with a price. Social media followers went up, but are they really the kind of followers that you want? Both of us have interacted with the Messi FC fans, and it's Messi or bust. They're not really fans of your club. They're fans of him, and they're just kind of following the club because of him, and then they're going to leave. So it's like, it's just not good. You brought him in. You didn't get past the round of 16. You increase your followers, but they're full of like people who are going to leave the second Messi's gone. The whole thing just feels blah, for lack of a better word. It just C plus for me. It's a C plus. And I'm hoping, and I've been saying it for weeks, I'm hoping that he does not want to stay. And I was getting nervous when there were reports that PSG wanted to keep him. So I'm glad they put their foot down. I'm glad he's going. We need his wages off the books. Mm-hmm. We need to bring in multiple players with his wages that can actually track back, and maybe they're not going to put up the same amount of numbers, but they're going to be a better fit, and maybe they will unlock and enable Mbappe to do more and Neymar to do more if he sticks around. So, yeah, C plus for me on the Messi experiment at PSG, which is something I don't think we would have thought back when we were buying his jersey. I did not buy his jersey, I will say. But I will also say that here in the United States, if you see a PSG jersey, it's probably like 80% chance that it's going to be Messi. I see a lot more Messi than Mbappe. I see quite a few Neymar. It's Messi and Neymar are the two PSG kits I see the most on kids and stuff, like if I go to an MLS game. So, I guess he put PSG more on the map for casual fans in the United States. But again, are they really fans of PSG? Probably not. They're not listening to this podcast, those fans, right?
Probably not. No. Yeah, probably a safe guess.
Yeah. So Ethan, it's been reported that Messi as we said, it's likely played his last match for PSG, and he's going to be free to go wherever he wants once his contract expires at the end of the season. Inter Miami here in the United States has been linked with him, as well as the Saudi Arabian club Al Hilal. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. There's also the pipe dream of him going back to Barcelona. And I say pipe dream because they just don't have the finances. He would have to take such a drastic cut in pay. And as we've seen with the Saudi Arabia deal, he likes his money. I can't see him going back to Barcelona. So where do you think Messi ends up after he takes off his PSG kit?
Ooh, that is a tough question. I know that we've been hearing reports that Barcelona aren't going to be able to, because La Liga has really cracked down on their financial, basically their salary cap, similar
they
to what
can
we've
sign him,
got.
but they probably won't be able to register him. That's
Yeah, that is the thing. And if you can't register him, then there's really no point. But I think I don't know if they're going to be able to pull it off. I mean, whoever the president is, Laporta, is that his name? He has said, in the last couple of weeks that they're not going to bend or stretch their rules for him to return, because that's going to open up a whole can of worms. If you let Messi in, then what happens when Real Sociedad want to bring in, whoever, or when, it's going to go down to even the mid-table teams. They're going to be like, well, look, we should be able to bring in this other guy. He's only on $1 million a year. And then, just you give an inch and then anyone will take a mile. So, and sorry if there are any, happen to be Real Sociedad fans listening to this. They are my favorite Spanish club. I've been to the stadium before, and
cool.
The big Basque population here in Boise. So I do like them. So that's kind of why I just mentioned them. First La Liga club that came to my head. But I don't know. It's going to be tough. I hope that Barcelona can get it done. I think it'd be good for him to, finish off his career in Europe. And as I think, your exact words a couple weeks ago, it'd be good to potentially, weaken a Champions League rival, because, Messi's return, might not be the best fit tactically for them anymore. And you saw how, there was give and take when he was there the last couple of years before he had to leave. But other than that, sorry, that was a bit of an extended not segue, but
you got Inter Miami, or is he going to Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, I think he'd go to Inter Miami, if anything, out of those two. I would take Inter Miami. I know the MLS would pay big for him, and he loves it there. I just don't see him loving it at Al Hilal, but who knows? I also don't think we can rule out the idea of him staying in Europe at another big club. I can't see him going to a Man City or anything like that. But I think I know some people are kind of talking about it today. Oh, maybe he could go there. They already have De Bruyne. They've got their whole setup. So, but if he doesn't have anywhere to go, but he really wants to stay in Europe, it's just going to be about who he thinks is a good fit. I mean, and who could potentially pay him. He's going to want to play Champions League football next year. So, just throwing names out, highly doubt any of this will ever come to fruition, but potentially Napoli, maybe one of the or one of the Milan clubs. Highly doubt he'd go to Germany. Just doesn't seem like a good fit. Potentially, a top 6 club in England, but maybe Atletico Madrid, something like that. Messi FC fans could continue to hate Real Madrid. I highly doubt any of those will happen, but if he wants to stay in Europe, those are probably his best options.
Yeah, Napoli was the one that came to mind. They'll have Champions League football. They're probably going to lose Osimhen, so they'll have some money to spend, but I don't know. I think the Maradona Argentina kind of connection there. I think that's why we link them there. Italy does make some sense, but again, just like you, I don't see it happening. I think you're going to get into a little bit of a media battle here. I don't think La Liga will bend the rules, but we know here in the United States, ESPN paid big bucks, $2 billion, something like that, for the La Liga rights. I'm sure they would love to have Messi back in the league, whether it's Barcelona or elsewhere. Get more people watching, signing up for their streaming service. But then on the other end, you have Apple, who just came in with MLS. there's been some reports that maybe subscriptions are a little bit lagging. It's expensive for the MLS season package. I think it's like $100. So bring in Messi. Think about how many subscriptions they can sell. So I kind of see this as like ESPN, Disney. They're kind of Disney owns them, and then Apple kind of who can nudge their partners in these leagues to sign Messi up. It's going to be really interesting. I think MLS makes a lot of sense. He would have partnership or ownership in Inter Miami, if I'm not mistaken, with David Beckham, former PSG player as well. So he could just go over there. You and I were kind of going back and forth with some Messi fans about we MLS is difficult. The quality is certainly lower, but the travel, all the things that go around. There's a lot of games. You have heat and humidity and altitude, and it gets cold in certain. I mean, it's a difficult league to play in. Do you want to say anything on that?
Yeah, it is a weird league to play in. I haven't actually heard anything about this, but I imagine this would be the case. But I would love to hear what, former big European stars think about the travel here. I know all of our NFL, college football, NBA, NHL, MLB, players, they're used to the travel. They grew up doing it, going across the country. A flight from LA to New York is long. It is hours and hours. It's not a short flight. And it would be pretty comical to see Messi playing at a sold out, whatever their stadium is in Minnesota in an October. It's like, is that still the name of it? Yeah. Like a 15 degree weather game. Everyone's freezing. Messi is just so not used to this cold. And then, 2 weeks prior, he was in Salt Lake. You were watching him in Salt Lake, or he was in LA, where I'd probably go down to watch him against LAFC in 80, 90 degree weather. So that would be. It is a weird league to play in, like you said. A lot of varying, atmospheres. I just think if you look back at, or if you look at any of the leagues in Europe, England. Most places are about the same temperature. Yeah, you've got Brighton and Southampton and Bournemouth on the coast, which is a bit warmer, but it's still cold. You've got France.
How many London teams?
Oh, there's like 6. Yeah.
Located.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The travel is way less. The climates are, for the most part, very similar. I'd say the league where you might have the biggest variety or variance is probably France, because it can get cold up at Lens and Lille and by the German border. And then Monaco, Nice, Marseille can be pretty warm there. But yeah, it's definitely a big shock. Although I will say it doesn't seem like a lot of players have struggled to make that adjustment yet. So maybe it wouldn't be an issue for Messi, but yeah, it is kind of worth talking about and bringing to light for some people. I wonder how he'd do.
He'd have to take it seriously. I don't think you could just kind of loaf around and collect your money. And people call it a retirement league, and I think if you have that mindset, you'll get showed up. There is some talent here. There are some players. Europe is definitely starting to scout MLS a little bit more. There, so. It'll be interesting what he decides. I think that's probably the best move for him. It certainly would boost the popularity of football even more in the United States. So it would be interesting. Ethan, we kind of talked on this a little bit, but I was wondering, what do you think Neymar makes of all of this? They're obviously buddies, really good friends. They played together at Barcelona. What do you think he's thinking about this suspension?
Man, that's a good question. I haven't thought of that at all.
I can tell you what I think. I think
yeah, go first.
Is probably looking at this, and he's probably having some serious conversations. Neymar, when he first came in, he had some difficulty following rules and all that, and wanted to take penalties, and was kind of doing his Neymar thing. But he in the last couple of years, he's sort of squelched that a little bit. It's not. He's been more about what's on the field. Unfortunately, he's been injured a lot, but that's not really his fault. But we haven't had all the exterior stuff, all the extra stuff, all the Hollywood stuff, and so I don't think he's worried about him being suspended, but I think he is taking note that, okay, PSG is now getting serious. And I also like that Neymar has something to prove now. It's not a guarantee that he's going to be with Brazil for the World Cup. It's just not. He's coming back from ankle surgery. It's supposed to strengthen his ankle. I think he has a lot to prove. I think we're going to see the best of Neymar. Whether that's good enough, I'm not so sure. And whether he can stay healthy, I'm not so sure. But I think he may be looking at this and thinking, maybe this is a good situation for me. PSG are finally getting serious. I'm losing my good friend, but he was probably going to leave anyway. Let's see if latter stage of my career here, maybe we could do something special. So he may be looking at this positively.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think if we do see the best of Neymar in the future, in the next 2-3 years, then if I am a strong Campos believer, if QSI let him stay for a couple years, and we get the best out of Neymar, I think we'd probably win the Champions League in the next 4 seasons. Some people might say that's ambitious from, well, you're not going to win it next year because you're still kind of figuring things out. Well, did Inter Milan and AC Milan have it figured out last year? Napoli, where was Napoli? Napoli barely qualified for the Champions League last season. I remember there was one year where Liverpool had to go through the qualifying rounds in the Champions League, and then they won the whole frickin' thing. And we were in their group, and we topped the group over them, and then they still won the Champions League. So I think any given season, we've got I think there are 15 clubs that could realistically, if they've got it perfectly down, they could win the Champions League in any given season. And I honestly think if we see the best of Neymar and we let Campos stay a little bit longer, I honestly think we will win the Champions League in the next 4 years. For better or for worse, we're kind of stuck with Neymar. So I would hope that we see the best out of him. But I actually think this will probably be a good thing for him. I think right after his injury at the Lille game in February, he was posting a lot on Instagram. He's like, I'm going to come back stronger from this, that kind of thing. I really think he's got this fire down within him. And I know he wants to be in Paris. And I think he's just going to go, I've got really nothing to lose and might as well just go as hard as I possibly can. I hope that's what we see.
I mean, I said earlier I would definitely listen to offers for him, but I think the best thing for PSG is he comes back and he stays healthy and he's better than ever. Like, I would love that. Just from what I've seen, I don't think he can stay healthy. That's my only issue with him. I'm not worried about him going off and partying in Brazil or anything stupid like that. My whole concern is just, can he stay healthy? And I think if he can, PSG gets serious. I'm with you. Campos has to stay. All of the rumors I've been seeing, I love them. Hopefully we can get him over the line. Even if we did keep Verratti and Donnarumma, and this team isn't bad. It just needs kind of to be shaken and woken up and slapped around a little bit and plug in some new pieces in place of Messi and maybe another midfielder instead of having to bring Soler and Ruiz in. So I don't think we're that far away. I would love a complete rebuild with youngsters and Xavi Simons coming back, but QSI is probably not going to do that. So I think we can figure things out as we go.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think we're super far away. I'd say when we were playing our best this season, we were a top 5 club in the world, and that's really all you can ask for every year. You can't ask to, what Real Madrid did a couple years ago, three-peating the Champions League. I mean, they just got that Champions League DNA, that they're built for cup competitions. We've seen that at the end of this season, them losing to Sociedad today. Their mind is focused on 2 things and 2 things only: the Copa del Rey final on Saturday and winning the Champions League. And they're good at it. But you don't see that very often. As long as we're a top club every season, it's almost certainly going to happen eventually. And I agree. We're not going to get a full rebuild almost certainly. And I do like this sort of, we've got the financial power at this point, and we say financial power and, people criticize PSG for, QSI have billions, but I am happy. It seems like FFP has tightened a bit in the last years, and I'm glad it has. I don't want us to be spending, whenever people are like, PSG are spending ridiculously. We haven't done that in at least on player transfers in a couple years. But back when people are talking about it, I agree with them. I don't think we should be. So, but other than that, sorry, we've got the financial power, even with FFP in the way, to be a team that's always in the running. And I agree. I think we are three good, I think all these guys that are starting for us now, if they can just be depth players, I think that wouldn't suck. But really, if we have a year without injuries, we are probably three or four good players, and the not the perfect coach, but a strong coach like a Mourinho. I think people are split on that, but I think I'd probably go for Mourinho right now if it was up to me. We're probably just those 3-4 bits away from being in the running every year for a long time.
It feels like we need a new era to come in. It feels like Pochettino and Gaultier are kind of in the same. Tuchel maybe was his own. He was here for a little while. Unai Emery was, I don't know if that's an era. Laurent Blanc was definitely an era. We need like a new era. People are split on Mourinho, but I think he comes in and you could kind of put down a marker. Okay, here from here forward, we're doing X, Y, Z. Like that feels like you are drawing a line in the sand. I like Nagelsmann. I'm not sure he has as much cachet as Mourinho, but he certainly schooled PSG in the Champions League this season. And kind of like Gaultier, he could come in and say, hey, look, I shut you guys out over 2 games in the Champions League, so listen up. So I don't know if he has that kind of bravado that Mourinho would have. So maybe it wouldn't be as much of a line in the sand, but I really like Nagelsmann. If he's a potential, he may want to go to the Premier League. Is to be seen. But if it's Mourinho, I can live with it. It might be more drama, but I think he is a player who will tell players, you're not running, you're not pressing, you're not playing in the next game. Like I think he will do that, and he will take whatever heat that comes. But he seems like a player or a coach that will do that.
Yeah, I agree, and I could see, who knows how much he's going to play young players. If a lot of the guys that are here now are slacking off, then I'm sure he would, play the next best guy. So it does feel like a lot of these guys like Warren Zaire, Emery, Garby, Husni, and Bitshiabu, guys like that. Lavalier, not that he ever gets playing time. He's like our 5th keeper. But, those kind of guys, I bet that, they're going to want to show off for Jose Mourinho. I mean, he is one of the best coaches ever. He's one of the best cup coaches ever. Who nowadays wins the Champions League with Porto? No one. Yeah. He did it in 2004. So he's got this
games, which I like a lot in the media.
He does
going into a second leg. He can put things out in the media and hopefully get a call or two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Yeah, he is playing 4D chess a lot of times. I mean, last season he ended Roma's 15-year trophy drought. He's in the Europa League semifinals this year, and I hope they win it, unless that means that he's not going to come to PSG. He's just, cup competitions, he's that guy. And I think we'd have a lot of years where we don't win the league very convincingly, but if he can establish that DNA similar to what these teams like, Bayern and Real Madrid have, where, sometimes the league is a wrap for them, whether, they're going to finish second or Bayern's coasting the title. And they got that dog in him to go and win the Champions League. If he can kind of begin to establish that, then I'm all for it.
Yeah. And maybe he can bring Abraham with him. We need a tall striker.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt.
Roma's got some decent players. Also, I like Conte, former Tottenham manager, who on his way out basically just lit that place on fire and said the players ain't worth shit and everything else. Maybe that's a manager that we need to come in and I think he could probably say the same thing to our players and be like, half you ain't worth anything. You don't have that dog in you or whatever,
Uh-huh.
You gotta go out the door.
I do worry. Yeah, Conte is, I feel like, a good mental manager, but his record in the Champions League is not ideal. I feel like he's much more of he'll do well for you if the players buy in, then you'll win the league very convincingly, kind of a thing. So not that he's the same profile as Mourinho, but It's if we're asking about winning a cup competition, I'm going to take Mourinho every time.
All right, Mourinho to PSG. I was on the fence mostly because I think of the drama, but at this point, we're
Yeah,
suspending Messi. So
we
what
might
can
as well
Mourinho
just
do?
we might as well, if we have him here 2 years and it's more dumpster fire, then Mbappe is going to leave after that,
Yeah,
and he'll leave after that, and we can just a whole rebuild in 2 years if it doesn't work out.
exactly. All right. I think I'm on board with that now. So, okay, Mourinho it is then. That's my choice. Hopefully. I think he turned down a Premier League job. At least it was reported. I think it might have. Who was it? Maybe going back to
I don't
Chelsea.
know.
I think he turned it
I
down.
haven't heard anything like that, but
Yeah, I saw that the other day that reportedly he had turned down offers from Chelsea to come back. So we'll see. Maybe he's holding out for the PSG offer. But first, we got to sack Gaultier. But more on that on the next episode. Ethan, I've kept you way past your bedtime. Go ahead and let people know how they can find you on Twitter.
yeah, I'm at PSG_Boise.
Fantastic. And I am, as always, at PSG Talk on Twitter. Reach out, say hello, tweet me, whatever. Visit psgtalk.com. Head over to our Substack, which is psgtalk.substack.com. We've got columns for myself and Jonathan Johnson. We're keeping it going over there with some really nice premium content. And if you like this podcast, go ahead and make sure you subscribe. Leave a review if you can. Share it. Always want more listeners. So it'll be an active summer. So we'll definitely be doing more of these throughout the summer to keep you up to date on all the transfers. So thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Bye, everyone.